Was he fired? You're kidding. You're kidding.
Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov's visit to Washington, D.C. had every chance to become an awkward one. The strained ties, the constant accusations of election meddling, and the dismissal of FBI's Director Comey just hours prior to his visit. And journalists, despite the fact that Lavrov came here to talk about issues like Syria and North Korea, were mostly interested in election meddling.
So much focus on contacts that Trump campaign people may have had with Russia. Do you see that affecting the relationship?
Of course, we see this abnormal background against which we now have to develop our relations. And I think this is humiliating for the American people to be told that Russia pulls all the strings in the U.S. domestic politics.
In your meeting with President Trump, did he raise U.S. concerns about Russian interference in the U.S. elections?
I have already responded to a similar question. When Mr. Trump and I talked, we never touched upon any of that nonsense.
As you know, we've seen the U.S. intelligence agencies accuse Russia of interfering in the elections.
You all seem to be reasonable people, and you still ask that.
Did Mr. Trump raise the question of Russian interference in the U.S. elections?
I just said that President Trump has stated publicly that these are all false stories. Please, do give us at least one fact, and then we can react. We haven't been presented a single fact, including in the Senate, where they've had special committees appointed just for that. Listen, this is not serious.
Well, it is time to stop focusing on unproven allegations and to look forward to establishing better US-Russia relations. That's according to former US presidential candidate Ron Paul.
What's going on right now is an improvement, and I think what's going on in Syria with these de-escalation zones, with Assad and Russia working together and getting more security for the country. At the same time, the United States is now talking with Russia. I think this is good. I just don't understand why sometimes there's an impression that we shouldn't be having diplomatic conversations. So that's an argument that we who are in the libertarian camp argue for, because all the tough rhetoric doesn't do any good. I think this is good progress. There will be plenty in this country of individuals who will complain about it, because it just seems like they are very content to keep the aggravation going. If there's a fact, we should hear about it, but we haven't. And those individuals who are trying to stir up trouble like that, they haven't come up with any facts. Nobody wants anybody's election interfered with, but the facts aren't there, so why dwell on it? Why use that as an excuse to prevent something that we think is positive, and that's better relations with Russia? I think the whole thing about the elections, putting that aside, would be a wise thing, because the evidence is not there for any intrusion in our election by the Russians. I don't think the firing had anything to do with the so-called investigation. I think it has to do with the problem, the credibility of Comey was such where he was involved too politically in the issues. You know, it was first it looked like he was supporting Hillary, then the next time he was supporting Trump, and he shouldn't have been out front on either one of those issues. That should have been done more privately on these charges made that were unconfirmed. So I think this represents poor judgment on Comey's part, and certainly the president had the authority to fire him.
Ron Paul there. Well, meanwhile, several American journalists have complained they were not allowed to be in the meeting, but their Russian counterparts were.
It is outrageous that Russian media were allowed into the Oval Office, but American media were not.
No U.S. press allowed in meeting with President Trump, so we have to rely on images from Russian state media.
Well, according to the White House, only 2 official photographers were present, one from the US and one from the Russian side. This, however, didn't stop outrage and conspiracy theories from spreading online, with claims that Trump is concealing his dealings with Russia from American journalists. A Fox News presenter went a bit further.
There were photos taken by the Russians. They're online. We're choosing not to show them because, as part of the press here in the United States, we think it's important that the press have access to official photos from the White House.
We know that Donald Trump and the media hate each other. So, the media is very clear about the fact that they hate Trump. Trump is very clear about the fact that he hates the media and so-called fake news. So, there's no conspiracy here. When you think about, for example, the White House press corps, they took great offense at the fact that Trump did not attend the White House Correspondents' Dinner recently. They took offense at the fact that they haven't gotten all the access that they would like during press briefings and so on. So they're used to their privileges. They're used to their access. And when they don't get it, they're upset.
Well, Trump's first face-to-face with Russia's top diplomat was held behind closed doors in the White House. Here's one of the few photos that have been made public of that meeting. Donald Trump is known for his unique style of handshake too, so let's have a look at how he's greeted some other prominent figures.